construction of a shed at the firehouse. So we'll formally open the public hearing now, but due to the fact that notices weren't sent by the engineer for the town to the abutting property owners that they were supposed to have been done, we'll continue the public hearing until March 8th at 8 o'clock here at this room in Town Hall. So, okay. All right, then moving right along. Under new business, 105 Woodfield Road, deposition of wood chips in wetland to alleviate water issues on property. Chris, you want to fill us in a little bit on that first?
Adam Parsons had called, who's on Public Works, and said that he had observed some filling of wood chips over on the property, so I stopped by and I met with the owner, who is here. In discussion with her, she had noted that she purchased the property, I think, in 2021.
July of 21, yes.
And since then, they've been experiencing flooding in their basement and in the yard and whatnot, and she, in innocence in a sense, had put the wood chips there in an effort to forestall flooding onto the property. I explained that we can't go filling a wetland and whatnot. So in the conversation, one of the things that she expressed concern about was that the culvert itself, there's a culvert that crosses underneath Johnson Road. So this property is when you come down Johnson heading towards the center of town, it's the house that's directly opposite where Johnson makes the curve. So Woodfield comes in from the right-hand side, and then Johnson continues to the left. So in addition to having cars periodically show up on their lawn because people don't make the curve, there's also been flooding experience, or seeming to be exacerbated by not having the water pass through the culvert perhaps as quickly as it should. So I had mentioned to the chairman that we've had a similar circumstance to that up on Pease Road, where the commission had engaged its consulting engineer to just study the watershed area to determine if the culvert was properly sized. I'm not sure. I suspect that this particular culvert may have been built during the Depression under PA, the WPA Act.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in that interim, obviously, we've been experiencing a different volume of storms and whatnot. So it's possible that it may or may not be sized appropriately. It's certainly not something that I'm skilled enough to determine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I got for you. And we invited, you can come up and sit at the table.
Thank you. I also wanted to add, and thank you for that introduction, I also wanted to add that in addition,
They don't bite.
I also wanted to add that in addition to what we experienced coming from the front of the property, the water from the back of the property from the old
Country Club.
the country club, the volume there is insurmountable when it's raining, to the point where it floods over our driveway into our basement. We have sandbags at our back door. So that was a concern of mine. I also asked about, like, based on the development, how would the topography change and how would it impact the houses there, etc. So, we tried to make an embankment, sort of, with the chips, and we got the chips from the town, ironically. All the chips were donated by the town to help us with that embankment. And it's not to extend our lawn area, because I don't want any additional work in cutting lawn, but it is basically to help us, just neaten it up and clean it up. And also, we thought that maybe you can help us with the wetlands itself, because a lot of the trees are dead in the wetland area. And I was thinking of replanting and maybe some things that's wetland friendly, bog friendly, that we can help there to make it look a little aesthetically pleasing, and then also, mitigate the circumstances of the water flowing through there.
I mean, there have been times where we've had Jim, with School Engineering, take a look at these things. It probably would make sense for you, for us to, have Jim look at that culvert then and see if he has some suggestions. Not that Public Works will necessarily follow any suggestions, but at least, and if the country club's ever developed in some fashion, that would be even a bigger issue to deal with there, so, I don't know. Do we have the money to do that, or?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
I don't know, that's just my thought, but open the suggestions.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we know that the culvert is cleaned out? I mean, is there?
That was my first, I first asked that before we went to the chip route. We went to Public Works and asked if we can have the culvert cleaned, and they're like, okay, that's not something they commonly do, so it is what it is. The only time I had someone come out was when a car ran into it and knocked over the barriers. You know, they stood those back up. But I asked the guys if they were cleaning. They said they didn't have a work order for that. So I don't know.
All right,
So
I can't
it
explain.
seems reasonable to have them go out and look
yeah.
inside too.
I mean, I can go out and climb down and look in. I don't think there's any nasties in there that are gonna pop out.
Nope.
Do we have any pictures of this at all?
No,
Okay, that could make things easier sometimes, maybe so if we had a picture tonight, that could go, that would go a long way to helping us understand what the condition is out there.
Yeah. There's also trash that comes down from the country club that, washes through our area, and we're responsible for picking that up. But is there a defined line where, because the property wasn't taken care of for an extended period of time, so is there a defined line where it's like, okay, I can cultivate, or I can make meat, or I can, and then there's the wetlands area, because there was a point where majority of where my chips are now, it was not wetlands, it was just not taken care of. And we cut down a number of trees that were dead, and then we filled in the thing there, thinking that we were doing a service instead of a disservice.
Well, typical rule is you need a permit to do anything within 100 feet of a wetland area, so which would be the middle of your house probably from what I remember seeing
Right.
out here. So, but to the extent that that area was yard or landscaped or something at some point, then people can continue to do what they're doing within that area that's been landscaped all that time.
Right.
I guess.
I also think that the chips look like it's been extended because it has been taken care of for such a long period of time, so it's being highlighted now,
Because they're fresh-looking chips.
because they're
And I
fresh
drove by
looking
there and
chips,
took a
and
look
the
at
guys
it.
are at my house every day, so, yeah.
I don't know. Why don't we have Jim go out there, take a look, write up a little type of report that we can send to Public Works to see if we can prod somebody to do something over there about it. So,
okay.
okay.
In the interim,
Public Works and the wetlands are one and the same?
no.
No. I mean, Public Works is a town department that's in charge of the roads and town properties basically.
Could you come up to, because I need to have both your names
sure.
so that, grab a chair.
So, the defining lines of the wetlands is what I was hoping we
So we're not back here
Yeah.
getting our hands slapped at all.
Yeah, well, there are town maps that generally describe where the wetlands are, but the problem is figuring out where a wetland is a more intensive project as far as testing the soil, see what kind of soil is there, and even things that look like lawn and don't look like wetlands could be wetland soils. So that part's hard for us to give you any advice on.
So the
Absolutely.
maps won't tell us, like from here to here, 50 feet, that way, this way,
Well,
200 feet.
there's some, like I said, there's some town maps that are general designation of wetlands, but it really has to be a soil scientist that goes out there and digs holes every once in a while to find out what kind of soil is there.
When-
Really determine
when you
something.
do the
So
holes-
your house was built before the Wetlands Act. So
It's
the
the
Wetlands
60s.
Act didn't start until the mid-70s.
Okay.
So anything that was built after that time, where it was generally thought that there are wetlands on a property, the commission would have an application before them, and a soil scientist would have been engaged by the applicant to delineate where those were. There's been no additions to your house
No.
in that time frame, and so the only thing we have to rely on, as the chairman has said, are these online maps, which are honestly used for laying out cropland, not for really delineating where wetlands are.
So when the walkthrough happens, I work from home, so this is a good thing, I'll always be there. When the walkthrough happens, is it possible for that person to give me some suggestion or a little direction, or, you know, so that,
Other than the map.
so that would be a little helpful, seeing that I'm grandfathered prior to the actual mapping situation?
You're a custodian for a natural resource.
Right.
For better or for worse.
Right,
From our perspective, for good, but anyway.
look back.
So the fact that there are wetlands there doesn't eliminate the need to be a custodian for them and whatnot. When Jim comes out, typically what he'll do is he'll look at the site and then he'll write, because he's engaged by the commission, he'll write, or the agency, he'll write a memorandum to them outlining what he saw, seen. And then certainly a copy of that goes to you.
Okay.
And,
Okay,
and
this
I'll
is
be
me
out there
pushing
at the
it.
same time.
Can I, once this is all established and we're on the same page, can I plant trees that's wetland friendly, or flowers that's wetland friendly in the wetlands area?
Say no. Say no.
Because I would like some, you know, irises out there, you know, instead of just cattails. Can I do that, or is there a certain amount of trees that we can take down that we know are dead, and then, you know, like replant?
We generally have no problem with taking dead trees down.
Okay.
The only problem comes in is if you take the stumps out, you know, you,
No, I'm not.
okay.
We're not that.
That's
that-
typically the way we handle those kind of situations. As far as plantings go, just,
I was gonna plant rice.
well, farming operations are permitted even in wetlands, so that just gives you
We have somebody who grows mushrooms in wetlands.
Yeah, I'm trying not to make it too complicated though, you know. I don't know, but why don't I let somebody else speak rather than me taking the floor all the time, so. What's everybody else
It
think?
seems like we generally do recommend certain types of plants when people have plans to change
Yeah, it's for restoration.
for
Right.
the restoration, like
Yeah.
the blueberries and the,
Yeah.
I don't have them at the top of my, they're always very familiar to me, but I,
Right, but normally that's, we get a recommendation from a wetlands specialist, so that the right plants go in. for that
Mostly because if you
particular
don't, they'll
area.
die.
No, that's why I'm saying bog plants, so
Mhm.
I know that these
Yeah.
are plants that are, they love water, or they're water-loving trees, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not planting just to have it like an annual thing, it's a permanent thing, and then it type of beautifies the area and is a plus plus.
There is information online as to what wetland suitable plants are and nurseries that have those types
Right.
of things. We probably have them from some of our other,
Yeah, we have
Files.
some information in the
Yeah.
files on types of wetland plantings that
That'd be
I
awesome.
can make copies of and give to you.
That would be
Yeah.
good, thank you.
And there are certain nurseries that kind of specialize in those kinds of plants, so,
yeah.
you can get that information
Okay.
to you, not an
I
issue.
appreciate that.
A wolf tree, you know, David Ward had that list of things too.
Yeah.
And, you know,
We've got a number of them,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
mhm.
So I look forward to the visit.
So I will let you, I have your email, I will let you know, when Jim's gonna be there, I will come at the same time,
Okay,
so.
and we'll be there.
Yeah, we'll try not to make this too complicated a process, and, you know, Jim and Christine can give you some information, and then we'll go from there, so.
No, I appreciate it. We can work hand in hand on this.
And the gentleman is?
Ezekiel.
Ezekiel Safret.
Okay.
So as far as what we have there now, just,
I would say just leave it there now, and then we'll figure out, I don't know, what do you think?
Leave it for now, and then we'll figure out, once Jim is out there, whether or not it's something that needs to be removed or pulled back, and then we'll go from there.
the 100 feet that you mentioned from I guess what you call the center.
Well,
Wetlands
the
out
edge of the
back there,
wetlands,
if I
there's a-
heard you right?
It's called the Upland Review Area.
Okay.
And when you have an official map of where the wetlands are,
Mhm.
then you just measure 100 feet from that line, and that's where we have to agree, yes, it's okay to do it.
Okay.
So, in the,
So we'll have one of you guys come out?
but they're not soil samples.
No, we just approve, we
Jackie
don't do
said
anything.
no right away.
No, we don't need a site visit. It would be a site visit, and I don't
Yeah,
think we need a
work with
site
Chris
visit.
and Jim first, and then we'll see where things, what the
Yeah.
recommendation is
And when
and where to go from there.
When I'm out there, I can better explain to you where, because in the state of Connecticut, wetlands are not only ponds and streams and things that are actually wet,
Mhm.
but there are also poorly drained soils. So you can have a stream, and then associated with that, you may have wetland soils.
Right.
And they're very specific soils, so we can take a look, see
Bring
at
your
it.
boots. Bring your boots.
Bring my boots, yes.
Because I started to go back there, because when you go back towards the, I keep thinking it's an old golf course.
Yeah.
It is a
It
little
is.
dog.
It is.
I thought so.
Mhm.
Where it drains down, it looks like the animals, or just from years of draining, it's clogged up. In between us and
Tony.
Tony,
Next.
right through there. I was gonna go in there with the shovel, just so it can come through, because it came up so high
Mhm.
one time. I said, that's
It
it.
crossed
She
over the
said,
driveway.
get out. So I gotta go look.
Mhm.
And back in the corner there, where Tony is, it's dammed up.
Mhm.
Because it looks like it's a natural kind of stream that came through,
Mhm.
or maybe someone dug it years ago, I don't know.
But there's a lot of
Just
water that
wanted
comes
to-
from the country club, so in,
Don't want to do anything wrong.
right,
Mhm.
in addition
Just
to
what's
what's coming
there,
off
just
the
kinda-
roads,
yeah.
coming off the country.
Neaten it up, tighten it up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Chris and Jim
Well, if it's
will
clogged
come
by
out.
erosion,
It could,
the
yeah.
engineer will
Yes.
come and look and say, oh, look, that's not natural.
Yeah.
But when you
That would
see
be a good
it,
answer.
when you see it, it looks like it was designed to go towards the culvert.
We'll take a look when we're
Yeah.
out there.
Okay,
And I will take lots of pictures.
All
All
right,
right,
thank you,
yeah,
thank you
thanks.
very
Why
much.
not
Good
get
evening.
free?
Not with people in it, just the land. Thank you for coming.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, 10 South Bradley Road. You have the
Good evening,
floor.
everybody.
Yes.
Good evening.
Before we start, maybe a little bit more comprehensive hidden here. It has, as you asked, a write-up from the tree company of how you want things done.
Okay.
I put more scope of work in here, explanation from us, just more information, and a bunch of photos showing you, the different dead trees, the settling cracks in our building, all these different things for you to see, just a little more information that you guys would like me to.
Do you want to take a look, see at it?
Sure, yeah. Might as well.
Yeah, approach the bench.
You brought your jacket.
Yes, my dad.
And Warren,
Yes, I brought him the big guns.
you brought in the big gun.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so I guess the questions from last time were, well, I know Stephen had questions about which trees are gonna be removed. I think we're all pretty clear, all dead trees can go, things that endanger the building can go. I guess your concern was how many more beyond that you plan to cut down, and the issues regarding access to river bank, so the riprap could be placed. I guess those were the main issues we still had to talk about, right?
Generally,
Okay.
So, this past weekend, I went there on the weekend with you guys, I started moving all the slabs that are on that riverside. Moved about 6 bundles on the weekend. We're gonna take all the slabs that are away from that side, and we're gonna take the fence out that's there, and that way you can actually access it. And then, I had showed you guys on the right side, there's also an access to around the building.
And as far as trees go, is it a clear cutting situation, or is that what's needed?
It is what I would.
They're all dead.
They're all dead. I mean, they really,
You might have one or two that have a little life, but they're on their way out. The last flood that we got 3 years ago, when we really got hit down there, it eroded under all the roots and the trees started dying.
you can see, I actually attached some photos there. The water came, you could see it, I marked the water line, this was the next day that we took these photos, but you could see on the building, and I marked it there, the water line on the foundation of the building, how it reached right to the foundation. And I took photos of the other side of the river to show you how all the water flooded into the houses on the other side of the river. So that, I believe, is the same storm he might be. Actually, the day after you guys came, we had not even a 2-year storm that night, if you remember. And I went out there and I have a video if you'd like to see it. And again, it's within just that small rainfall. It was a heavy rainfall, but not like a severe event. And it was 3 feet from my foundation already. So it's just a very common occurrence. I mean, you go there and you could see it. Like I said, I marked some of the black and white photos. I expanded them, just, to say, I did reprint them also in color, so you could see them just a little smaller, just to kind of, my printer was kind of suffering, so that's trouble with the color photos. But I did, the black and white ones are enlarged where I wrote on them and reprinted them as color on the 4 picture pages. And then you'd also see the catch basin. You can see how the water there's 2 photos there. This has already been repaired, but I put everything in there. The water had flooded so much into our catch basin that it made a mini sinkhole. And you can see the picture that I took there. A lot of the foundation cracks that I showed you guys, they're actually much worse than that. I've repaired them since, and my fault, I didn't know I was going to come to this to take photos of them, so those are actually quite older photos. They're actually much worse than that, but I have them prepared by now. But you could see, I mean, they're almost 2-inch cracks from, they're expansion joints, but this is extreme expansion. And again, buildings settle, and I know that. But usually the majority of the settling is within the first couple of years, 5 years, maybe 10 years at most. We've been in this building for 20 years, and it's even older than that, and these are all happening within these past 5 to, say, maybe 10 years.
So probably because of the erosion of the river banks.
Exactly, it's causing the ground to sink. It's exactly what it is.
We're lucky enough to have had like 4 50-year floods in 10 years. So it's not accommodating to the trees or the bank. These footings are supposed to be 42 inches down, and they're not. The soil just keeps eroding. So if we ever get a frost, God knows we're not getting one this year. If we ever get a deep frost, this building's going to move. It's going to push the foundation up.
Stephen, do you have any questions? You usually do, that's why I don't know every well.
I mean, I haven't seen anything,
Okay.
from,
I have a question.
Yes.
In the clarification sheet, in response to Mr. Pree's comments, the riprap would stay on top of the bank, not in that little.
Yes, so, I'm sorry.
So how does that actually stop the erosion? Only if it floods up that high. It doesn't stop the erosion from underneath.
Well, we're not going into the actual river.
Right, we can't do
It
that.
stops the erosion of my land,
Yeah.
of the bank. But it was said to us to keep it out of DEP, to not go into the river and
Right.
actually set footing into it.
And it's,
Yeah, so
still,
we'll
it's
get-
gotta be
have a
1 foot
beneficial
up.
effect. So.
Yeah, we'll be about 1 foot up, as we
1
said.
foot up from the high water mark.
Yes.
Up or up?
Up, this way. So if this is the bank and this is the high water mark, you have to be 1 foot above it,
Okay.
which is the greatest thing about roots, why you never take the stumps out, is because the roots will hold the bottom part of that bank. Because even when you cut a tree down and it's dead, the roots will still draw water. They'll live for years and years and years, and they'll sustain that bank.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think we
And it's
understand that the roots will
surge
stay
stone.
there. The
There's-
rock will not go into the river.
Correct. There's 3 different types of rock. There's modified riprap, there's riprap, and there's surge stone. Being modified riprap is the smallest stuff, up to 8 to 12 inches. Then there's riprap that's usually 12 to 18, and then there's surge stone, which is obviously 18 or bigger.
Oh, okay.
when at all possible, in a scenario where you have running water, you'd like to use surge stone. Because the bigger the stone, it sets into the bank better, and it's harder to be moved by the flow of water.
And have you indicated in these materials which stone you're going to use?
Yes, the standard is riprap that they have in here, in the book there. But like I said, I would prefer to use the surge stone as long as it has to be capable of being pressed into the bank. And we won't know that until we get all the debris cleared out and everything. But after walking it with the board, I'm fairly certain that we can get surge stone in there. And we've done numerous projects over in different towns with the surge stone, and it really works. Especially when you're leaving the bottom 1 foot.
Okay.
Whereas the riprap tends to roll with the water, and you'll start losing the riprap.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit of water down there.
Oh, yeah, I believe.
There's photos, you can see.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have a problem with this proposal. I guess I just don't know from the diagrams, your drawings, what you're proposing. I don't know how high you're going to raise the grade at the riverbank. It's not clear from your drawing. Your drawing has riprap being placed below the water line, but you say you're not going to do that. Your plans propose a clear cutting of all the trees along that bank, what we call a riparian corridor, which has wetland benefits, despite the fact that I have aerial photographs that I've produced for the file that show, as of last year, that corridor contains many living trees. I've seen pictures of your winter, the lack of canopy in the winter time, but these pictures unmistakably show a healthy tree population there, except for some graying. Certainly there are some dead trees there. So I object to the clear cutting of all of those trees, and that's what your let me finish, please. Your proposal states clear cutting. Your proposal shows riprap below the water line. You say you're not going to do that. That's part of what I'm getting at when I say I just think the commission, lack sufficient information about what is planned, what the activity is planned there. There's discussion about using machinery to haul trees out there, bobcats and things like that. All that's going to disturb the soils. We don't have any plan about erosion control, because if there's a rain event, we're going to have siltation in the West River. So what I sense is that you may fail to appreciate the significance of the activity that you're proposing adjacent to the West River. It seems, and because you fail to appreciate that, in my opinion, I think you are not detailing enough what you intend to do out there so that could be checked against the conditions after the construction has occurred. So that's one thing. So I believe the clear cutting of the trees, it's well established that trees provide many benefits to wetlands and water courses that we need to be mindful of. So I'm against the clear cutting of all those trees there. I'd prefer to see an inventory of the trees by some kind of an arborist who could tell us which trees are living, which are dead, and then I'd like you to propose which ones you want to remove. As I said, there's plenty of literature of the benefits of a tree canopy to a river and a stream, including benefits to the property owner, such as shielding your building from sun, which could reduce your air conditioning costs, shields your building from high winds, things like that. So trees have a benefit to adjacent landowners. If there are trees that show a hazard to your building, make that clear. I took pictures at the site inspection, and I'm not an arborist, but I did not see any trees that appeared to pose an imminent hazard to the structure. If you could show me them, then I'm open to that. But I couldn't find any. So if the claim is that the trees, just because they are standing, pose a danger, then I object to that. So I think the clear cutting of the trees, I could detail what the benefits to the wetlands and watercourses and the elimination of them, how they have a detrimental effect on our wetlands and watercourses, but I'll save that for another time. And then beyond that, though, it's hard to, I can't really look at your plan because it's really little to look at, but you're proposing to nearly pave that entire riparian corridor, that buffer area that separates development, your building, your parking lots, from the river. You're planning to basically pave that over with a crushed stone to turn that into an impervious surface. Again, if I'm misunderstanding your plan, it's because you have little plan. Just a moment. Let me just detail my concerns. If you could make notes, that would be good. So, again, I object to the placing of whatever stone material it is that you're even proposing. I object to that being placed between your building, the base of your foundation, all the way to the river stream, which would, as I said, completely destroy the riparian zone. And I have publications from our own Department of Environmental Protection that talk about the benefit and necessities of riparian zones and the functions of riparian buffers. And there are alternatives to rip-wrapping an entire length of a river bank. There are alternatives, and I would urge you to explore them. And our own policy statement from our own Department of Environmental Protection talks about the importance of riparian corridors and their functions. And I'll tell you what it says last in a policy statement on riparian corridor protection. The second to last statement says, the riparian corridor buffer zone should be retained in a naturally vegetated and undisturbed condition. All activities that pose a significant pollution threat to the stream ecosystem should be prohibited. So clear cutting a riparian zone does represent a pollution threat because you no longer have any nutrient uptake from any of the pollution that comes from your parking lot, let's say, or the rooftop of your building or any other areas that stream receives during a storm event. So I object to your proposal to cut all the trees and to introduce crushed stone to harden the entire length of that riverbank of your property. So for reasons I could detail too, that is supported by the science of the matter. And then about that riprap in the riparian zone, there's ample evidence out there that riprap is the last course people should employ when trying to control erosion on a riverbank. Now that's aside from the fact that I didn't see, and again, I'm not a soil scientist, I'm not a physical engineer, a professional engineer either, but I did not see any erosion of the riverbank there.
Sir, can I please speak?
Just a moment. So I didn't see any obvious signs of scour or erosion, and the pictures. Yep. And the pictures in the file from a contemporaneous visit show that. So whether there is erosion or not erosion, riprap, I think, is, my preference would be that we not use riprap to control soil erosion on the riverbanks there for a variety of reasons. But what I will tell you is riprap,
Sir, what is your solution?
just a moment. So alternatives to riprapping, but riprap, so, I'm reading from FEMA's Engineering with Nature publication. And I'm reading from page 9. It states, let me just make sure. I'm sorry. I want to read just the,
Okay, well, Stephen, while you're reading that, though, there are a couple of things we can sort of eliminate from your list, in my mind at least. The issue regarding.
I found what I wanted, I just don't want to break my thought. Yes, so a full bank, I'm reading from page 243 of a bank stabilization guideline. A full bank riprap revetment, which is what you're proposing, should generally be considered only after all other options are exhausted. A reduction in river function reduces environmental benefits, limits sustainability, blah, blah, blah. But there are alternative methods to hardening by riprap, including bioengineering, hydroseeding, controlled planting, construction of engineered log jams,
Sir, I really need to speak.
things
Okay.
like that. So,
Thank you. Just
so
so you
there,
know, sir,
just a moment. So there are, so there are choices, I think. So,
None of
you know,
those
I-
apply.
Sir, let me give
Okay,
you a
yeah.
background, okay?
so I object to on those
personally-
grounds.
I am an environmental engineer. My father is a PE, he's a civil engineer with a specialty in erosion control, structural engineering, and road engineering. He was the head engineer for the town of Westport for close to 20 years. He has done this many, many times. Mr. Luciani is a professional, he's done this many, many times. To think that we're going to, trying to find a polite word, but, half-ass this is, the town knows my family, the town knows Mr. Lucian, they know what we do, and we do everything right. This was, there's so much to unpack with what you said. Okay, first and foremost, I'd like to ask you, those satellite images, the satellite images you said, or drone images?
Google
You said they're
Earth
from last year?
2022 is the
Google Earth.
date on the.
What I will say, if you truly object to us, they're cutting the trees, please have the town come, mark the trees they don't want, and the town is responsible for anything that happens with those trees. Those trees have already fallen on our roof at a tremendous rate that I had to replace my roof for $100,000 to a cost to me. After replacing that roof, the other week I had somebody go up there and have to put another cap on 18 holes in that roof because of fallen trees. With all due respect, when you guys came to the site visit, I was willing to bring you down the river. No, you guys wanted to sit in one spot. You kept rushing the meeting. You wouldn't even let Mr. Luciani speak. You didn't want to see, you just sat in one spot and then you left. You didn't go down the river, you didn't go to the culvert area. There's plenty signs of erosion, plenty of signs. Now, if you'd like to give me what you think is a better solution than placing riprap, when two engineers are telling you this is a great solution, along with someone who does the installation as a living, has done it many times amongst the town and many other towns, please tell me what you think it is. But you have a professional engineer, a PE, sitting in front of you and telling you this is what this is designed for. There is no shrubbage. I show you photos of the water coming right to my foundation. This can cost me millions. Do you want to be responsible if I lose $10, $15 million because of a catastrophic event happening? I'm trying to mitigate that by spending my own money. This is going to cost me tens of thousands, maybe even to the hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this, to mitigate this. I'm doing this to protect my building, to stay in this town. We own many houses in this town. We own the building. We have been very dedicated to this town. I can change that. I'm not trying to. I have other things I can bring up. I'm trying to keep away from it. But if you don't like that, I can show you the picture of the rock wall built right upstream. How come that rock wall is okay? You said an impervious area. Can you explain to me what an impervious area is?
An impervious area is an area where rainwater will not infiltrate.
Okay,
It
can you
does
tell
not.
me how that's the case with gravel or riprap?
I'm not quite sure what,
Coefficient of the imperviousness of it?
yeah, I'm not, my supposition is it's gonna be impervious because it's gonna be hardened, but I can't tell from your diagrams.
It's not asphalt impervious. Now,
Rip-
asphalt
riprap
is
will be
impervious.
Just so you know, asphalt's pervious, your roads are pervious, water goes through the asphalt.
Thank you,
That's a fact.
thank you.
Water just doesn't run off the roads, it goes through the asphalt. That's how puddles disappear. It's been that way since I started.
So, I wanted to address a couple of things that you said. No one, certainly I didn't suggest that you were doing anything half-assed, to use your phrase.
It
What
very
you,
much
what,
seems like that's what you were saying.
no, what I'm saying is I'm objecting to your plan. I didn't say anything that your end product was going to be anything less than, what you intend it to be. So, just to dispel that. And again, the satellite image shows 2023.
So
And I,
you
at
agree
the,
you
at,
can mark the trees and the town is responsible for those trees?
Well, I don't know. That's a-
All on my
that's a
building or
legal
my
matter,
neighbor's?
that's not really a wetland matter, so I can't really address that. I don't think anybody here can. But to get
I'm
back to
saying
at
it
the
on
site
record.
inspection,
I'm saying it on the record, that's the case.
so
Because I've seen
but
what's
get back
happened.
to the site inspection, yeah. Nobody rushed the site inspection, but we did try to limit the discussion before we set out to see the conditions there.
Mr. Luciani was speaking,
Because
you
it's-
went like this.
That's right, because it sounded like
At
we
the
were,
beginning of
it sounded
this.
like we were getting a presentation about it. We're really only there to observe the conditions.
But how can you observe if you don't ask to see or if you don't go over? Like I said, you came out the door, you stood there for really less than 2-3 minutes and just went right back in.
Yeah,
You
but-
didn't go
yeah,
down the river, you didn't go down this
No,
way.
we have a different, I'm not quite sure you saw what I was doing, but I did go
I
both ways, because I took photographs.
I saw you taking photographs, but standing in one spot. You didn't go to the
Oh,
culvert.
you
Did
need,
go to the
would you
culvert?
please, if you could tomorrow, take a look at the photographs and you'll see they're from, they're multi-directional
Did you
from
go to the
different
culvert,
places.
sir?
But I don't really want to get into, I don't really want to, this discourse isn't getting us anywhere with respect to your application. So I told you, I object to it because I believe your plans are inadequate. I believe your clear cutting of the trees is detrimental to the physical characteristics of the wetlands and water courses. I want to see a plan for what you want to cut there. I want to see a plan that shows how you're going to raise the elevations of the banks there and what materials you're going to use because of the problems that I indicated. So what's going to happen is, and I'm not sure this is our jurisdiction, but it sounds to me like you're interested in kind of raising your property elevation and hardening that area, which kind of creates problems for downstream abutters. So, that's kind of, I also found it was, Mylone and McBroom did an excellent study of the West River Watershed Association, and they concluded that they concluded that a stream,
Okay, we gotta get this road back on track. Stephen, you hear all your objections. I have a few comments. As far as, the complaint about, the plan showing riprap going down to the water and now it's a foot above the high water line. I mean, that's easily taken care of by just a stipulation, in any decision we make. So that in my mind is not an issue. The clear cutting, we're talking about, 10, 12 feet behind the building, which they need to get to in order to be able to riprap the river and stabilize the building. I don't have a problem with that, and I understand your concerns about wetland corridors and habitats and that. But the problem is that this is a commercial area to begin with, and maybe it shouldn't have been a commercial area 50, 60 years ago, but we're dealing with what's there now. And I don't think it's reasonable to have them put their building at risk for the sake of trying to maneuver around a few trees. When I was down there, I saw quite a bit of erosion, and we basically, we're there for 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Those folks have been living with the situation for 20 years or 10 years. And so, I mean, their testimony as to what's been happening down there is probably the thing that we have to look at and consider. And, we have professional engineers involved here on both sides. Jim Preddy looked at it, had substitute comments, but didn't have any huge problems with what was being presented. And so we have engineers on both sides that are looking at it who are professionals. I don't personally have a problem with the riprap behind the building as well as going down the bank, because you've got to stabilize the whole area, otherwise the building could be in jeopardy based on the testimony we've heard. I mean, maybe it's not the perfect situation, but as we find in a lot of situations in town, things were built before wetlands regulations went into effect. We have to deal with what we have to deal with. If it were a pristine new application to build a building, it wouldn't be anywhere near the river. So that's really what we're starting with in my mind.
There's our tax base.
Gene,
I have just one comment of the things that Stephen brought up. I think usually on these maps, we do have some sort of erosion control for any work that's being
Well-
done. But of course, what's gonna happen is erosion control
So
nails
that's-
and
yeah.
Measures.
things will get in the way of actually getting the rocks in. But it seems like maybe while the cutting is being done, it would be a good idea to have something.
Yeah, in fact, when Stephen was speaking, I had the issue regarding the change in the riprap location, erosion of soil and erosion controls at the direction of wetlands enforcement officer, depending on what stage of the process we're at.
Okay.
This will have to be something where, Warren and Adam and Chris sort of work together to
Okay.
get this done the right way at the right time. I don't see it, what's it, 2-3 day job maybe,
Yeah,
once you get the
2 to
trees
3 day
out?
job. And we could have hay bales there and put hay bales where we're working as we go, and as we finish the wall, we'll move the hay bales to the next section. So you keep everything under control. You can't put silt fence in because
Yeah.
it won't go in.
Yeah,
It will not go in. You have to use hay bales, and because of the flow of the river, I don't think you could use the absorbent tubing either, because it's just gonna end up downriver.
Mhm.
So the best route to go there is hay bales, stake them in the best you can, work that section,
And then move.
then move to the next section.
Mhm.
As far as the trees being cut, that's not gonna affect any of the banks or anything, because we're leaving the stumps
Yeah.
in. So, it's the placing the rocks that's gonna be where some activity comes in with the equipment.
And Stephen, to the extent that the stumps are left there, at least to the extent that there's a tree or two that is alive, I mean, things start growing out of there to create new habitat eventually, if they have actually lived through this process and there is anything alive. So I don't have too much of a concern with that either at this point. But let me see if anybody else wants to speak first. So, anybody else have anything to say?
I agree with you, Bob, that the plan lacks certain specificity, but we could certainly deal with that. And, I think these guys need to get this done out there, keep their building in good condition and not getting washed out.
Yeah, my only comment is we've got engineers and we've got Chris to supervise it. They'll come up with the best solution they can with what they've got.
Yeah, I'm sure there's field conditions out there that something will have to be adjusted that you'll be able.
And typically what happens is, we've done this in the past, where we look at what the weather's gonna be, and when we know we're gonna have a dry stretch, that's when we do the work. Because it minimizes the ability or concern for erosion, because, that's when we do it. And we've done this any number of times, and, with the stumps left in place, I can't really tell you how much erosion you're really gonna have there. But I can be out there every day that they're working on it. I mean, Warren and I have a very good working relationship, I believe. And he's been responsive any other time that we've had a project, when I've gone out and said, do this, and he's done that, or when Terry was here and Terry asked him to do something. So, the understanding is there and the response is there. So I personally, it's a small stretch of the river. As you've said, this is an area that today probably wouldn't be allowed to be developed the way it was or is. But, I mean, that river is flooding.
Just something short. The best solution is a retaining wall. We don't want to go into doing that, because that raises a lot of the concerns you have comes when you build a wall, which is actually built upstream from us. This is, in our professional 3 opinions, the best solution is riprap, and that's all the headlands.
And we've had our engineer review it too, so it's not like he said, here's what you should be doing instead, so. Stephen, go ahead.
Yeah, just, so I don't want there to be any misunderstanding. I'm not insensitive to your concerns as a property owner and a businessman in town, but I believe this project could be undertaken more environmentally sensitively. So that's principally my objection here, is I think there's a little, so it just seems to be little effort or little consideration of some of the environmental concerns that we need to concern ourselves with as a wetland and watercourse board. So, few things, I just, sure, cutting the trees, leaving the stumps. That's good for about 10 years. Those stumps don't live forever, and they do start to rot, and they cause depressions, which will undermine your work there. So, dead stumps don't last forever, and they actually cause problems down the river, let's say. And then I just want to leave you with a final thought. So yeah, I'm not proposing, that nothing happened here. And I know we're in an industrialized area, and the situation it's a tight situation there. And Bob, I just wanted to make you aware the trees are cut back from the building at least maybe 15 feet, 20 feet. Take a look at the photographs.
There's only 12 feet to the riverbank from what I see. Yeah.
My machine is 9 feet wide before I turn.
I'd like to see our photographs again. So yeah, perhaps I'd like to see the photographs again. But this space, those trees, which I suppose probably won't be allowed to propagate again for the same reasons we want to cut them down in the first place, and that lawn space, I can't tell from these photographs how far, but my photographs show, we had several people standing arm to arm where there were no trees between the building and the first tree. But once this space is gone, once these trees are gone, once that naturally vegetated riparian buffer zone is gone, it's gone forever. And it's that kind of treatment of space like this that causes the flooding that you're complaining about at your own property. So it's the kind of development that you're proposing that I think could be done more consciously, that causes the problems that you're trying to get away from here. So I want to thank my commissioners for allowing me to air my concerns about this. I can be long-winded, but I do take that area down there very seriously because the West River is a resource to an entire watershed, and it supports a lot of recreational wildlife, and its clean water, its water quality will be affected by this project. So, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. I have worked for town for 20 years. I worked for town of Westport for 10 years as a consultant to flood and erosion control board, planning and zoning, and environmental department. The riprap is the best solution in this case. First is the wall, which not forbidden. You can do a wall. Riprap is the best solution. It's good for the environment. It's got a lot of holes in between. The water gets in there. Water table remains the same. And believe me, I have done so many projects and reviewed for flood and erosion control board. This is the best. I put my finger on the line. If you're concerned about trees, you go out there, you mark any trees that you want, tag it, and you would be responsible for it if it gone over my building.
Okay, well, we're not going to go there. I think there's a consensus.
We don't do that.
I have a property, there are acres of property to my left and right and front, and they cut many trees, no solution. You worrying about half a dozen trees, and it's so close to my building, it's 10 to 12 feet to my buildings. The branches all over the roof, the trees are about 12 feet. And you're worrying about a few trees? You've been inside my building. Did you see that inside my building, what we have there? Are you ready to take the responsibility? Then you go up there and you
All
tap
right.
the trees do you want to save, if that's what your concern is.
Okay, I think we can move this along, so no sense in beating a dead horse on this, but because I think there's probably a consensus that you can remove the trees, so we don't need to, deal with that anymore, at least I get that sense. But if you have anything else you want to add before we finish this up, because we'd like to get a vote on this tonight and be done with it, so.
Yes.
Mhm.
I'm a professional engineer specialized in this material. And I'm telling you, this is the best way. The best way is a retaining wall, which is, we can't do that,
Right. Mhm.
right? Riprap is the best way to do it. It's the best, no other way.
Mhm.
Because it's got holes in there, it's environmental, and the water can go through, the water table remains the same. And if you have any other solution, let us know.
Oh, we're not suggesting any other solution right now, so. Anybody else have anything they want to say? Okay.
Yeah, just one thing.
Sure.
I've been doing this for 40 years, construction, excavation. I've worked with Chris on many projects, town projects, private projects, many projects. If there's something that needs to be done differently while we're out there doing it, Chris says, look, can we do it this way? 100%. My objective as a contractor is to do the minimal amount of damage to a riverbed that I possibly can, because it only comes back to me. If something's downstream, it's my problem, it's not their problem, I'm the contractor.
Mhm.
When we do these projects, we take great care to not have any erosion or have anything go downstream. As you obviously can imagine, there's always a lot of eyes on a project like this, which I don't mind. The more people that have something input, the better. There's certain things we can do and there's certain things you can't do. Right now, their building, their footing is 2 feet below the surface of the ground. So there is erosion. I don't have to be an engineer to tell you there's erosion. The code is 42 inches to the footing. They have 2 feet. So that it's exposed. That's eroded away. If you look at the stair that we walked to get into the back door, the bottom step was about 12 to 14 inches to get up. That's all material that's gone. That bottom step was level with the material. That material's gone. Now, did it happen last year? No. This occurred over 10 years of flood after flood after flood. And, if you lose an inch here, an inch there, eventually you get the situation which we have. All exposed roots on the trees. I personally am a tree lover, and I think Chris can testify that. I'll do anything in my power to save a tree to go around it. I'm a farmer. I was brought up on a farm. Certain things you can do, certain things you can't do. In this scenario, anything you leave there is going to die. The root base cannot handle the fact that the dirt has been pulled out from underneath it. So that being said, if anybody has any questions for me, I would be more than happy to answer them. And if anybody would like to come out while we're doing the project, just give me a call and I'd be more than happy to meet you there and go over anything that you wanted to look at differently.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have anything they want to say? Otherwise,
Ready for a vote.
ready for a vote. Okay. What's everybody sort of thinking? And then we can frame a resolution.
I'm satisfied.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think we just have to add a couple of things we talked about
Yeah,
that.
some just, yeah.
Stipulations about the
Yeah,
process.
the rip wrap, 1 foot down to no lower than a foot above the high water line. Soil and erosion controls as decided in the field, basically based on timing and situation at the time. No stump removal, which is sort of in their application already.
It is.
And I don't know what else. Does anybody want?
We're gonna try to use surge stone. If I
Okay.
can't use the surge stone, the big stuff, then we'll get down to modifying.
I think we agree with you on that,
Yeah,
and the engineers.
It'll work better and it'll look nicer.
Mhm,
And more stuff will grow in between it,
yeah. Mhm.
because the stones are
They're big.
bigger,
There's
so
more
you'll
space
get some
between.
vegetation around them.
Mhm.
And it tends to work a lot better.
Okay.
It's difficult, but it tends to work a lot better.
Just with the, Chris supervising.
Yeah, and,
Monitoring or.
notification to Chris when the work is to begin, and,
I have boots.
yeah, okay, and bring your boots, so. Anything else anybody want to add to that?
Sorry if I lost my cool.
No, you didn't, no,
Experience
no.
for me, so
Yeah.
just throwing that out there.
You're fine. So do we have a motion to approve with the stipulations we just went through? Anybody?
I'll make that.
Dave moved. Jack seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? 4-1, approved. You're all set. Okay.
Everybody have a lovely evening.
You too. Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
You want you to put that, or you want
Should I get to keep that?
Yeah, we probably should keep it, just have it in the record, so.
Adam, are you both Adams?
Oh, I mean Keon, yeah.
Slide it down to.
I don't, can you spell your name for me, because I'm all confused.
Adam is my father.
That's what I thought.
I am Keon, but I handle everything for him.
Okay,
So I was like,
well, I know your last name.
yeah, he's supposed to be retired.
I know
I
that,
had to pull him out tonight.
I know. And I know we had
Everybody
lots
takes
of.
Take care.
Not having to be upset.
All right, moving right along. 35 Indian Trail Road, application for Eagle Scout project to build a bridge across the stream on land trust land. We told the kid not to bother coming this tonight because,
We did.
yeah, we did. So therefore, do we have a motion to approve the application for the Eagle Scout project with Chris again, being notified, having field supervision and authority to, redesign or make changes to the project as necessary based on field conditions? We have a motion to approve.
Also make that motion.
Jack moved, second.
I'll second.
Dave seconded, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions? Okay, 5-0 approved.
We took care of the fees last time.
Yeah, we waived the fee on that, yeah. Mhm. All right, and then, the other matter was the firehouse, but,
I don't know.
we'll deal with that
Terrible
next month.
businesses.
Chris, any correspondence or enforcement officer stuff that we need to deal with?
I did get a hold of Dave Lord, and, he's been busier than whatever. But they have done some of the plantings, but not all of the plantings out on Wolf Tree. So
Okay,
he's supposed to have me out there when everything's in.
when winter's over?
I don't know that we've had him.
I know.
And other than that, I also was in touch with the, agent who is working with 65 Ansonia, which is also a David Lord project, and so they are working on it, and we'll be seeing something coming in that way. I mean, there's no erosion occurring over there.
Yeah.
There may be some additional plantings that they need to do in that particular area,
Okay.
so.
All right. Let's see what else. Oh, minutes. So we have the February 15th minutes.
No.
Oh, no, it's February 15th. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. One of those days.
January 21st.
January 18th, minutes for the meeting.
Jean's found stuff, I know.
Well, I did not read them. I didn't print them out.
Oh,
Did you?
Jean.
They just came tonight.
Oh, they were they were here on the desk, so.
Do you want to read them and then you can send me
I can
anything
stay
you
and read
find?
them. I can, yeah. I'll just do it now.
I have one.
I'll do it after we close, right, or
Oh,
not?
Or,
No?
no, just take them at home and then.
Oh, okay.
scan
Okay,
it to me.
well, we could do the site visit minutes because
Yeah.
those are pretty easy.
Well, I'm a grammarian, I think, as well. In the end of the first paragraph, it says, "The bank of the West River adjacent along the property," it's redundant. Only has to be one, either it's adjacent or it's along, not both.
Which one do you want to get rid of?
Adjacent to the subject
It
property.
would be adjacent to or along. Along is fine with me.
Okay. And we'll take out adjacent.
Take adjacent out.
Okay. With that change, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Anybody want, Jack moved,
Earth shattering.
Josh, want a second? Since we got closed out before, all in favor? Aye, opposed, abstentions, okay. With that one change, site inspection minutes of the 25th of January are approved. And Jean, you're gonna talk to Chris
yeah.
about this one later? Okay.
So we'll just
Oh,
say
wait,
that
I've
it's
got
subject to
this.
whatever Jean finds.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
We trust her.
Yes, we do.
I'm sure I
Are there
stuff
two?
in there for you to
I've
find.
got the 18th.
Purpose.
Yeah, that's the one you gotta read.
Yeah,
Oh, there's only
yeah.
one? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been on top of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been getting rid of it. Okay, what else is left? Let's see. Anything else we need to talk about?
No, So depending on whether or not you get any new applications in, because you've wrapped up everything else tonight, then you may only need the special meeting on the 8th.
Yeah, and then if for some reason we can't close the public hearing or it isn't decided on the 8th, feel free to decide when I'm not here on the 15th, so it's up to you. We'll see what happens on the 8th though.
Okay.
But there's nothing to continue to the 8th or the 15th at this point, so.
And then you've all physically gotten copies of whatever came in, and you've also been electronically sent whatever
Yeah,
came in.
I realized I had read them all.
Well, sometimes you want to make a note on them, so
Oh,
it doesn't
yeah.
hurt to have a hard copy. And then Mr. Broby will definitely be here on the 8th,
That's
so
good.
you'll have your consultant here.
Okay.
And then you did get the alternative plans that Mr. Smith had submitted.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, anything else you need to talk about? Nope. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn? Jack moved. We have a second?
I think Josh
I'll second.
seconded.
I'll second.
Steven seconded. Oh, sorry, he beat you, sorry.
All right,
Oh,
that's
it's
fine.
I'll defer, Jack.
I don't feel cheated.
We don't have to. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions, okay, we're done. What's it, 8:37, something like that? Okay. All right, thank you, everybody.
job, Bob.
Next
Thank you.
meeting should be fun.